Do you want to hear the theme tune?
Yes, definitely.
What do you
Wow.
think?
I've not heard that before, obviously. First time hearing it. It reminds me of being like a little character in a game in the 90s, just jumping around on the cloud. Um,
I like it a
what was
lot.
it? Alex the Kid? It reminds me of Alex the Kid in Miracle
Oh
World. Did
yeah,
anyone
that's
remember that game? Which is a
um,
great reference.
yeah. Well, our Alex the Kid
Uh,
sounded a little bit like Larry David and Curb Your Enthusiasm. Um, but I kind of wanted
uh,
something that didn't sound totally, too kind of slick and generic podcasting music. So that's what
I
we
like
got,
it.
I didn't ask for any feedback on it.
Did you know? No, you just played it straight away.
Yeah,
Straight in there. Like it.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yes.
just go, it works.
So we're doing a podcast.
We are.
How are you feeling about doing a podcast?
Um, Pretty nervous. Well, no, not actually nervous. I'm actually quite excited about it to see, that's, we like talking, we like talking to each other, and so we like talking about design and about intros and music and all sorts. So I think, yeah, hopefully should be interesting to someone, interesting to people. Let's see.
Let's see. I felt a little bit down on the idea, if I'm
Oh,
honest,
oh,
because I
yes.
mean, we've been running a business for 5 years and but basically just stayed in the shadows the entire time. And as you know, I'm not a big social media person, so um, the idea of kind of putting ourselves out there and actually creating some content and all this kind of stuff. I think because all the people I see doing that are incredibly annoying,
Mm,
for the most part, kind of put me off. Um, but then I realized that firstly, not everybody who does a podcast is annoying. Which, given that everybody in the world does a podcast, it's kind of unsurprising, I
yeah,
guess. Um, but also people in that kind of like let's be experts in a thing and talk about it space are not all annoying. I found some people that I really liked, and then I also kind of just got over myself because I thought about actually we're trying to do something that's valuable to people, and it's not about kind of shamelessly self-promoting ourselves. So
no,
I'm okay with the idea now, as long as we can do things like have that as our theme tune, because
definitely.
I think we shouldn't try and big ourselves up too much.
No, I mean, we've done 5 years of doing that very successfully
Yeah.
in terms of not being ourselves up. So, yeah, I guess the jury will be out whether we are annoying or painful, but let's see. Actually, not. But
This is true. Yeah, there's also like I think a very not British thing about putting
mm,
yourself out there like that and doing I'm an expert and I'm going to just talk for a bit about all this kind of stuff. Um, but we'll get used to it. I was also thinking that the kind of people who'll be listening to this podcast will be either people that we know and are mates with, or like LinkedIn mates with, and potentially people in the future who, like, when obviously this podcast is massive, are then coming back to
yeah,
this episode to see
gosh,
where it started, and
wow,
I can only apologize because
that's made
presumably
me quite nervous
those
now to think
people they're used to a much better podcast in the
much more
future.
polished. Do you think the theme tune will still be there in the future in 5 years? I'd
Uh,
like to think it will be.
I don't know. I was actually quite indecisive about the theme tune because part of me wanted to have some French accordion and mandolin
Okay.
music. Um, so I'm not ruling out going back to that.
Well, do you know what? What I'd like it if you just didn't tell me, just put it in just as a little
Yeah.
Easter egg,
Okay.
and then we can see how it goes.
Every week a different theme tune. Um, should we talk less about the podcast and more about the thing that we're actually here to chat
Yeah,
about?
yes.
Probably good. Um, so we are in the process of creating a new product, and it's aimed at startup founders, specifically B2B startup founders, people who are in the space where they have had a idea that just won't leave them alone, that they really want to kind of take forward, but probably pre actually kind of doing anything. And I think at the phase where they probably don't have funding and are needing to figure out if their idea is the thing that they want to go ahead with. And it's a bit of a different thing for us. So, for people who don't know us, Adam and I run a agency called Yaya, and over the past 5 years, we've helped a lot of different businesses to take new ideas and bring them to market through branding, product design, and helping them out with their marketing. Predominantly as a services business, where we've done kind of consulting things. This product is going to be a bit more self-serve, and it's a new thing for us, but it's effectively distilling all of the things that we've learned over the past 5 years into a product that we hope will become the thing that if you're founding a B2B tech business, you need to be a part of.
Yeah, and we've learned a lot over this 5 years, so it goes hand in hand. So kind of distilling that into what we're going to try and do, I think it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn from some of our mistakes, but a lot of stuff that we've learned along the way that I think can be really valuable to people starting off on their journey. And yeah, we love the start of projects and the start of ideas. It's kind of like where we get our kind of motivation and energy from, and helping passionate founders bring really great ideas to life is something that I think we've really loved over the last 5 years, and want to help people do more of, really.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is, um, we both really like the start of that journey. Um, and I think it probably fair to say that as kind of time goes on, we like it a bit less, and it starts to become a bit more kind of like progress just by inches, as opposed to you're really like figuring out the actual like core of um, a product. And I think one of the challenges is the kind of people that we would really like to work with, who are right at the start of that journey, often don't have the funds to be able to just outsource everything to an agency. And so we like to play that sort of co-founder role as a partner in those early stages. But one of the things that I think we're trying to do with this product is open that up much wider to a group of people who, as they don't necessarily have tens of thousands of pounds to
Mm,
spend on their brand, or their kind of MVP product and that kind of stuff. So it's a bit more self-serve, and it's at a cost which will help us to kind of target a different bit of the market, and a bit of the market that we're really passionate about helping.
yeah, yes, good, correct. I think we definitely get a lot of our energy from that kind of start of the journey and working closely with founders. But I think I'm really excited about kind of giving people these tools and tips to help them do it themselves. I think it's something really unique and a bit different. And it's kind of weird because I guess what we've been doing this whole like 5 years, essentially giving people the tools and the templates and the ways that they can kind of overcome the challenges and stuff that we've helped other visitors overcome. Whether it's doing through generating brands, websites and products. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I'm sure there's going to be some quite cool content that we're going to be creating on this journey. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
And I think there's a bit of that kind of Steve Jobs thing of like cannibalizing yourself before someone else does. There's obviously a lot of there's a lot people can do now with AI and with tools that make things really simple that years ago you would actually have needed somebody with, a degree and a load of experience to be able to do. I think we now kind of see it as part of our role to make it easier for those people to get a really good result using those tools, because the tools are great, but a lot of the time it's kind of understanding what good looks like, and knowing how to get a good result when you're using them. I think with our background as well, so both of us have worked in product, brand, and in marketing. When we've thought about this product, we've tried to bring all of those things together and really kind of learn, as we said, some of the lessons that we've come up against in the past couple of years. I think we can go into that a bit. We're doing this podcast, I suppose, because we're building this at the minute, and one of the things that we believe is that it's good to do this sort of stuff in public, because I think fear of looking like an idiot is a good motivator, and I think Paul Graham said it, that's a better motivator than being optimistic about securing a really good result. So there's a bit of kind of putting ourselves out there, but also the things that we're thinking about and talking about as we build this product are the exact same things inherently that startup founders need to think about. And I think by us kind of talking about it and articulating it ourselves, it helps us to figure some of that stuff out, and I think also will help the startup founders who are listening to this podcast to figure out some of their challenges as well.
Yeah, certainly, hopefully. I mean, every project we've kind of worked on, it kind of changes and then adapts as it goes through it. And likewise, our idea here was just kind of like a space for us to almost journal, like how we're kind of building this and shaping it. And we'll probably be aware that kind of things will change as we develop it out. And I'm quite interested to see where it goes and actually documenting that, because I think in the past we've done terrible job of documenting kind of anything that we've done as a business. So I'm quite excited about actually kind of logging this and then be able to kind of reference back to it and seeing how it kind of develops and changes. And like Phil said, I think really cool that it can help people out on their journey. I also love to be a bit frustrated when things do go not as straightforward as the first plan, which I'm sure will happen to us at certain points. But yeah, let's see, play ourselves out there, and it won't be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah. Shall we talk a little bit then about this model that we're creating?
Yes, let's.
So we are calling this model, and as a kind of taking everything that we've learned over the past few years, we're calling it Cult Products, which Alex, who's actually on the call producing this podcast today, has said sounds a lot like a makeup brand. But the essence of this, and I'm keen to sort of hear what how you think about this, but I don't think there's any point in starting a startup unless you're doing something that is genuinely revolutionary. And go into why I think that's true and why there's a lot of evidence for that being the case. But I think I think that kind of breaks down into three distinct areas, and we've talked about creating a revolutionary product, creating a radical brand, and building fanatical followers as the key three things that you really need to think about when you're starting a startup. So for the people that we want to try and help with this, they're at a stage of their lives where they are potentially about to go and dedicate, who knows, decades to an idea. And I think it's worth spending a bit of time validating whether that idea is actually worth pursuing, because and we know this, we're not just kind of influencers. We've actually been running a business. We've done a whole bunch of this stuff, and we've worked with about 100 startups. Um, I really like video games, and one of the types of video games that I play that like a lot of people can't really understand is that really like horror video games, like Resident Evil, those kinds of things. And when I think actually the same reason that I like playing those video games is kind of the reason why I like running a business, because I get
Gosh.
this feeling of like I've got to do this really horrible thing and I have to get to the end of it and I have to push through it, and then a certain sense of satisfaction getting through it. Like that's
Hey,
that's kind of
how many
a bit
people
of
to start a business? Not put them off.
no, well, fair, but like running a business is really hard, and it is.
Yes.
I think people say persistence is the number one thing that you need to have as a startup founder, more than intellect or any of those, uh, those other traits, because it is a lot like just getting punched in the face over and over again. And so, one of the things that we're trying to do with this cult products framework and with what we're trying to create as a product is a way of startup founders saying this is actually an idea that is worth me getting punched in the face over and over again for, because they have to have that persistence if it's going to be successful. And if it's going to be successful, and the way to tell if it is an idea worth doing, it does it is it genuinely revolutionary? Because if it isn't,
Mm,
I don't think it's worth doing at all. I think just stick to your day job.
yeah. We're going to need to have it get back off the kind of mat after you've been punched, self-help guide, I mean, so the roadmap of things that the founders need. Really much, I agree. I think also in the kind of B2B space, it kind of makes it even more, is there even more of a need for it? I think, like, so I think it kind of really stands out. I think, from my perspective, um, you know, being customer centric is key, like knowing what your kind of your users want and needing their pain points. Um, Having a bold brand that kind of stands out from everything is super key to that, just from like the storytelling element, but also from the visual design and how it kind of looks and feels and how you interact with it. Look, but I was always thinking about, and I know it's just like people talk about it, but I was looking at a US startup about 10 years ago, and in the London base, it was kind of one of the kind of, I guess, the darlings of the startup world, and then we were using obviously a lot of kind of CRM software and stuff like that, and just internal tools, and we just had various different ways of like messaging each other, like throughout the office, and throughout all the different departments, editorial, sales, across the different like cross-functional teams. And they would like myriad of things, ranging from like Google Hangouts, so like we used to message on Google, which is like awful, or just like reams of email threads, with just all like instant message style. Actually, what we were using was like Skype, I think, to message, and then like Slack came out. They just completely like revolutionized everything. And I think from when I was working there, I was like, for all the internal tools, which was really boring, and looking at like blue and white CRM systems all day and stuff that just didn't connect to any of them. And then seeing Slack and really kind of solving a problem and a need that like we all had within that business. And also just the brand itself just felt really different. It felt like something that you would kind of connect with and interact with and watch for. I guess like in your own time, not just at work. So it's kind of like, I was like, oh, cool, you can actually have tools at work that are kind of actually enjoyable, and the brand is pretty cool and it speaks to me. And just like little things that just made the whole experience way more enjoyable. And then that for me was just kind of like, okay, there is a space here for like the brands that can be different and that can connect to users. It doesn't have to be like super boring. And that to be a bit more fun. I think that will barely just like people just kind of get drawn to that, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's something you and I have definitely tried to do and talked about a lot over the course of our careers. Is how do you take things that maybe other people think are a bit boring and try and make them more exciting and like elevate them in unexpected ways. Because I think you spend a lot of your life at work, don't you? And I always got excited about like new pieces of cool technology that kind of made life easier and not just easier, but kind of more fun as well. I remember, the like early days of my career where, I came into the office and somebody said to me, um, you're young, you like new technology and all this kind of stuff. We've just got a new fax machine, and then just sort of said, go and do that. And I then spent ages figuring out how to use OCR scanning stuff so that I could just never go near the fax machine, but the faxes could come in, they could be sent to an email address, they could be scanned, and then they could be turned into Excel spreadsheets and all of that kind of stuff. And found all that stuff really interesting. Partly because you got to explore all these kind of cool tools and things, but I think the Slack thing is really interesting because I think, and this kind of gets to the heart of why I think you have to be so revolutionary, is what you've described there, because that must have been what, 2015?
Yeah, 2013, 2000.
Yeah. So like real early days of Slack, really,
Yeah.
compared to where they are now. And I think you're describing an organization that realized that there was a way that they could do work much better by using new technology. It wasn't something that you could do by just getting a new email client. It was, how do you take kind of instant messaging, which I guess also kind of kicking off with WhatsApp and all that kind of stuff at the time, and then use that to disrupt, in a good sense, the way that people were doing work. So you and the company that you worked for were early adopters of Slack. And interestingly, if you look at what happened during COVID, yes, a few more people started to use Slack because it made remote work much easier. But at the same time, Microsoft Teams just exploded. And they have the advantage of being a Microsoft product, and it's already pre-installed on most people's machines, and organizations have all the security in place to use all of those kinds of things. Microsoft Teams is not a revolutionary product. It is basically Slack repackaged in like Microsoft branding, and executed badly as well. But
Ooh, punchy. Hello.
well, I'm not sure it's controversial to say that Microsoft Teams is crap. Yeah. So, but they were able to capture more of the majority and
Yeah.
much more of the market than Slack were, which is kind of unfair. And if you're Microsoft, you can do that because you already have the majority, you already have that bit of the adoption curve. But Slack wouldn't have been able to do that. So for Slack to be a viable business, they had to capture an early market. The only way that you capture an early market is by getting genuine innovators who are tech enthusiasts who will take something pretty janky and will admire the intent behind it and the technical aspects of that and find a way to make it work. And then early adopters like you and that company who say, I can see the potential in the ideas and the thinking of this for how it can radically change my life because it is a new thing. And you need those people to start using it and for it to start to become established and for people to start building case studies and references to cross over into a world where the majority of people buy it. And the majority of people just buy stuff because everyone else has and because they know that it's good and they're not prepared to put up with janky stuff. No, you as a startup, you just can't drop into that. Or if you can, you are a genius and you're working miracles. So it's super, super important that your product is revolutionary, or those tech innovators and those early adopters are just not going to pay attention to it. And they're the foundation of everything. If you don't get those people, you just will not get the majority and your product will fail. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's so important that from day one you have that intent to really change things up.
Yeah, definitely. And like good references of organizations that kind of do. 'Cause the interesting is it with teams because I feel like from a brand perspective, the reason obviously Microsoft is a huge brand, and I guess that is like why they have the dominant share of the market because I guess it's trusting, right? Like most businesses choose Teams because it's trusting, and they see Slack as being a bit of a kind of younger, more rebellious little cousin, but they wouldn't be in Teams if there wasn't a Slack. So it's kind of like it's a funny funny thing. Um,
Yeah, that's true of a lot of Microsoft stuff. They wouldn't be able to capture the
yeah, that's
market
it.
unless somebody genuinely innovative did something revolutionary that
So
they could just
so
repeat.
are we saying that Microsoft just steal ideas of go to of developers there?
Yes, but
Probably
but
could get a
also
job for that.
I think what we're saying is you've kind of got two options. You
The
can
big
genuinely
boys,
yeah. Well, yes, you can genuinely innovate and do something revolutionary, or you can be Microsoft, Apple, or Google. But
right?
it's really hard for me to found a business and be Google. Like, if you
Yeah.
just want to take on a project of building a better search engine, good luck. Uh, I wish you the best, but I'm not really sure how you could make a success of that.
And we do have to remember that Microsoft, Apple, and Google all were Slacks at one stage of their kind of lives, and
Yeah.
then got to the big beasts that they are today. So,
Yes. Interestingly, Crossing the Chasm, which is definitely worth reading if you are founding a tech startup, um, I think must have fallen out of favor a little bit. I use that tech adoption curve, and I've just kind of talked through it a lot. I got a Kindle last year, and I don't know why I've been putting off getting a Kindle for my entire life. You can't get it on Kindle; you have to get a paperback, um, which suggests that either they just don't want it on Kindle for some reason, or the demand isn't there. And it is an old book, but I think everything in it is still, you really need to kind of know that stuff if that's the journey that you're going on. Like it's all still kind of fundamentally true, albeit technology's moved on a bit since it was written.
out of interest, is it not on Kindle because it's got diagrams and stuff? And I don't actually own a Kindle, so I'm not sure if you
Um,
can do that kind of stuff on a Kindle.
oh, you like so yeah,
Our producer's not doing it, so
you can get diagrams
yeah,
on
okay,
Kindle, but they're
sorry,
always terrible.
right.
I don't know. Maybe
Just
it's because
can't
I
get that
read it
adoption
in
curve right.
can't get the adoption code right. I think it might be because I read everything in dark mode as well, so
Uh,
um, it just doesn't isn't very clear. Um, so yeah, so that's anyway that as a sort of premise, you have to think about at a product level and a marketing level and a brand level because you have to be able to communicate to that early market what your ideas and vision are if people are ever going to kind of buy into it and follow you. So back to kind of what we're trying to do, I think quite often you have different silos of people thinking about different stuff as you're trying to launch a new product. You have to really think about this stuff really holistically. And I think it's super important at the start of a startup's journey. It's, the founders can do all that stuff because the founders are probably working on the brand and are probably working on the product and it's their idea and they're trying probably very aware. Yeah, okay, so I think with a lot of the B2B founders we've worked with, what's been really great about them is they're not just founding a startup because they want to start a startup. They're people who've worked in an industry for a long time and they're subject matter experts. And that means they really know the things that they need to change in their industry in order to be really revolutionary, but really revolutionary in a way that changes the game for everybody and delivers a huge amount of value in a totally new way. I really like those people. As more and more people start to come into the business, I think that can get diluted. And I think designers can potentially be guilty of just designing the thing that they're working on in isolation from that kind of broader holistic thinking. So if you're designing screens of a product, are you thinking about, okay, I need to make this function well, or are you thinking about I need to make this a thing that is totally different from everything else that's on the market and is moving things forward in a really, really innovative way? I would argue not necessarily. all the time, all the people. Same with brand, and same with how you go out and communicate those things. So I think this is why this product is really needed, is because you want to stop that dilution from happening as much as possible and make sure you set off on the right foot. Because anytime you make a decision early in the startup, because it happens so far upstream of loads of other things, the consequences of it are massive. So getting it right early on is really, really important.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I think we've been super lucky, really, haven't we, to have worked so closely with founders over the years, and that's definitely like where we've had so much more enjoyment just about being able to make quick decisions, say things really quickly. And yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, this is the bigger, longer kind of rollout of the product, and you kind of less kind of day to day, face to face kind of working with a founder, then it kind of does kind of change a bit, which changes a lot, really. And that kind of idea and concept does get diluted, it gets kind of lost on time, so it gets changed to different direction. I think, yeah, I think we can really help kind of capture that and let like founders who are the kind of experts, industry experts, something so passionate. I think all the experts we've had, that kind of magical storytelling is so important because it's coming from the founder, it's coming through them, and they're the expert in that field. They know their stuff and know their onions, and they can talk about it in a way that like no one else can. And like, it's really hard to let all that we've found loads of companies we work for and work with that to bottle up that kind of essence, that energy, and and projected throughout the team and in the market is a difficult challenge, and really can only be done by the founder to a certain degree. I know that Steve
Yeah.
Jobs, like at Apple, had like he was involved in everything, so in terms of every bit of copy and every bit of uh, imagery that
Okay.
went out, he was just,
Okay. So,
which is another level.
somebody sent me a thing a while ago, and if your like premise of your company is that you're going to try and run it as if you were Steve Jobs, or you know any of those other legendary figures, that is a terrible strategy, because you are definitely not Steve Jobs. That is, that is like a football team saying we're going to set up as if we've got Messi playing for us, and then you know there's only one of Messi. Like they are exceptional for a reason, because they are the exception to everybody else. And um, Steve Jobs, maniac that he was able to kind of avoid that dilution a lot of the time. But there are very few people like him in the world ever, and it's unrealistic to say like I'm going to copy what that man did, because you're not that man. I don't think. Um, and the other thing, it is natural. A lot of this is not, it's obviously not intentional. But when you're very small and you just have the founders sat in a room together, I think there's a uh, that's like condensed culture, and everybody really really cares about everything that's going on, and really really knows what problem they're trying to solve and how it's differentiated and all of those kinds of things. But it also is quite speculative. When you move into delivery, you have to answer questions like, well, we actually need to build an MVP of this product. So, well, what are we compromising on? And actually, like, you have to draw that line somewhere. And it's great to kind of have a vision and an idea, but you have to get investment, and to do that you have to make certain commitments, and you have to build a thing, and technology can be limiting, and budgets can be limiting, and time can be limiting, and all of those kinds of things. So the question becomes like, how do you keep as much of that that kind of energy and revolutionary spirit as possible, um, and that becomes harder the more distance you get from the founder, and the more scale you have. So again, part of this product is just making sure you set off on the right foot. You have all that stuff really crystal clear, and it becomes harder to dilute it, and easier to make compromises in the right way.
Yeah, so, yeah, no, I think that's exactly what the intention is. Um, we just sort of go down to it, provide you with the tools and the bits that make you actually do this thing. So that's like be a fun challenge for me to sort of figure out, man.
Yes. So I think, you know, just to sort of summarize, is like we don't, we probably don't have to get our entire life story into episode one of this podcast, and this is going to be something that we're going to turn into a regular thing. Um, I think the first thing is, if you found it in any way interesting listening to us rambling on, I'm reliably informed by every like startup and YouTube video that I've ever watched is like and subscribe, is an important thing to say. The other things, I think we are looking for a group of people who we can use as kind of beta testers, and we want to give them a free version of the product that we are going to be building in flight. So if you're thinking about starting a B2B tech business and you'd like some coaching from some people who've done this a whole bunch of times on a regular basis, plus tools like training, toolkits on how to get the best out of the AI products that are out there, and access to a community of your peers and people trying to do similar stuff, please do get in touch, and we'll put details of how to do that into the show notes. And then the final thing for people to look at is we're going to launch the first one of those AI toolkits, and you'll be able to download that if you go to cultproducts.yaya.co. And when you do that, you'll also be able to join our community. And think those are all the things that we're giving away at the minute.
Yes.
Did I miss anything, Adam?
No, that is at the moment our first new giveaway, which I'm excited about. And that's a really cool tool that we kind of devised, and we help people in creating wireframes and like the tell all foundations to their amazing product. So yeah, I'm excited to see like people use it and get involved, and hopefully start like any more things to come. But yeah, like we're looking to build out a community. I think it'd be great if we can get like a load of like-minded people to kind of join and be part of something. And so yeah, if you've got a great idea and we want to hear about it, we're sector agnostic. So yeah, we worked in everywhere from biotech to fintech, dentech, everything. So there's no kind of we're both very curious. We love new ideas and new things. So yeah, we looking forward to seeing who subscribes and who gets involved, and then we can take it from there.
Very good. That went much faster than I thought it was going to.
Yes, what are we on, like 39 minutes?
We've been chatting for 40 minutes.
Have we? I think we have probably.
If you're listening to this and you liked this podcast, this is the worst possible version of it, because it's the first time we've done it. So if you liked it when it's like this, it will only get better, and we're going to do one of these every week now going forwards. We will.
Well, we were supposed to have a break in between, so we didn't, which I think is a good sign. But I don't know, as usual, but he says that.
Okay. Well, yes, there's a lot of things we can do. Theme tune one more time before we go?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex the King.
Thanks for listening. See you next
Thanks,
week.
guys. See ya.